Morning guys, welcome back to the shed. Sunday morning. Apologies for not doing many videos lately. Life's been a bit hectic, but thought I'd just do this one this morning, only be a quick one. See a lot of questions asked on Facebook, or especially Facebook, about what size of compressors and things like this you'd need to do your average paint job. This could be just a small single panel painting a whole side, or for some of you guys it might actually be a all over respray. I think I've addressed in the past you need at least a sort of 16-18 CFM compressor if you're going to do big jobs. If you're going to do a small job, just a single panel, something like your 2 horsepower hobby 50 litre compressor will do the job. The biggest thing that we need to watch from our air supply is the quality of air that we're getting from the compressor, not really the size and volume and everything else. You can compensate for that. You can use smaller size spray guns that use less capacity of air. You can actually allow a little bit longer of times when you're painting to actually allow your compressor to build up pressure so that you can carry on with the next coat, that type of thing. You can sort of compensate. One thing you can't compensate for is the quality of air you're getting out of your compressor. You can, from most piston style compressors, get lots of oil, lots of water. The compressor could be outside where the air going into the compressor is very cold, the compressor itself being very hot because it's actually running. So you get what we call a change in dew point, so the moisture that's in the air turns back into water, so you end up with lots of water in your airline, and that's devastating for a paint job. And I'm not just talking about waterborne paints, it's absolutely devastating in solvent based as well. So we look for cleaning our air really as best as we can. We can start off in the workshop here, just for my airline tools to protect them inside, so you don't get rusty water going inside and just ruining the inside of all the bearings in the machines. I just use a 2-stage unit. No need for me to show you this one, I'll show you others in a minute. One regulator, one bowl that collects water, one bowl that collects oil. That's all I really need in here. That setup is fine for mechanical tools. If you then go on to painting, you need to be a lot better. Basic sort of equipment is something like this. You need to regulate your air. You don't obviously need to paint at a compressor with its flat out 100 psi pressure. You can regulate the air down at this stage to sort of 60 psi, something like that, and that will give your compressor a little bit of a break and give it time to sort of help pump up, so your smaller compressors will cope with a slightly larger job. This is what we call a 2-stage regulator. The regulator part doesn't actually count, it's the filtration that we actually describe as 1 stage, 2 stage, 3 stage. This will collect water, this will collect oil. So from oil and water, 2-stage like this should see you okay. If you have chance, after each coat you're doing a job, just pull the drain plug, just eject any water that might have been collected. You don't want the level of water or oils collected to rise up through the bottle and you can't see what level they're at, because all of a sudden they become obsolete and they will let water through. So as soon as the water gets collected in the sight glass, where you can see a centimetre or 2 centimetres of water in the bottom, just dump it, get rid of it at that point so it doesn't build up. So that's the 2-stage regulator. 3-stage would be an additional stage to that, which I'll show later. The 3rd stage is mainly meant for breathing apparatus. If you're actually got proper plumbed in breathing apparatus when you're painting, which ideally you should, this gets rid of odours from the airline. If you've ever connected an airline to a mask that's only had a 2-stage, you can smell this hot sort of oil smell. That's not good for your lungs. You don't need to be breathing that in. So the 3rd stage protects you, not your paint job really. That 3rd stage is to kill off all the odours from oils coming from the compressor. So you go to the 3rd stage. As I say, I'll show you that in just a sec. The other thing that you could ideally do with, once the air has gone through your 2 or 3 stage compressor, filtration unit, we would like to dry the air. We would like to, any last moisture that's in there, and these molecules are absolutely minuscule, we could do with drying the air. We really need to paint with dry air, slightly on the warmer side if you can, from an air point of view, which you normally get from a compressor working hard. The air that's coming through isn't really chilled, it's reasonably warm. For a long time here I made a unit, and that's what I'm going to show you now, because I think most of you guys would be more interested in homemade devices that work than actually my professional unit. I'll show you last of all. We had a guy come to the garage one day that gave us a service on our air conditioning machine, and out of the air conditioning machine was a very good high quality canister and filtration unit with the delicatessen beads inside. This was the unit that he took out and threw away. This was a discard type service from the air conditioning people. What I'd done, I came home, I put airline fittings in both ends. I actually cut off the bottom of the filter. It didn't have this ring of nuts and bolts at the bottom initially, and I welded on 2 rings of bolts. Drilled some holes so that I could actually bolt the 2 halves back together, and with a piece, I think it was car inner tube, made a rubber gasket between the 2 so I could actually take this apart. I basically trashed everything that was in there that belonged to the air conditioning unit, because the oils and dyes and stains that you put in air conditioning would have trashed a paint job. So that was sort of cleaned off, washed out, sterilised to start with. I buy my coffee, changing the subject very slightly, just from a coffee shop down the road, and when they supply the coffee, they sell it in a cotton sock. It's a sock like this. It's not made out of microfiber. It's just ordinary, very finely knitted cotton sock, and it's got a pull string in the top, and that's how they supply the coffee. So what I then done, obviously you don't want delicatessen beads to be shooting down your airline. You need to contain them so they stay in here and collect the water. So I used this coffee sock. At that point I didn't want to go and buy expensive beads, the proper beads for the job, because they are quite expensive. I did find some other help on YouTube, and this is going back 10 years or so ago. A guy uses kitty litter. So, like me, I went and bought some very nice grain, white beaded kitty litter, which changes colour when it gets saturated. This is only like £2 or £3, very, very cheap. So I put the right amount of kitty litter into the cotton sock and mounted it inside there, and that works absolutely fantastic. I get no water whatsoever coming on my paint jobs. The downside is this is a little bit on the small side, so you would have to do it every 2 or 3 paint jobs. It's, as long as the 2 and 3 stage unit is working fine, you could probably get 3 resprays or so out of this unit before you need to change the kitty litter. If you put the proper beads in there, the delicatessen drying beads, that would be fine. That would last for 2, 3, 4 months, whatever. So that was a good homemade device. Cost less than £5, including the filling. It was just cheap and cheerful, and I've had that mounted on the wall in here for probably 4 or 5 years, and that has worked really, really good. So anybody that wants to make one, that's a good starting point. There are other methods of round steel tubes that you could use, but that was a dryer that works, and as I say, cheap beads, use the kitty litter. I've changed a little bit now to the professional range. I'll be quite honest, I've only had this one a little while. It will work absolutely fantastic. This is the Bolton unit. This is vastly expensive, and ideally if you're running like a small business, this is the type of thing that you really want. I keep mine mobile because I may not always paint a vehicle from home. I may actually go to someone's premises to paint, so from that point of view I keep this with me. It's a DeVille, this unit. It's a cam air unit. It holds about 8 litres of the beads inside, and once again it's exactly the same as my homemade one. Beads inside are contained in a sock, a cotton sock. With this one in particular, you don't actually change the beads in the sock, you throw the whole sock away, and it comes with a new sock, and it comes with a new sight indicator. This sight indicator, if it detects there's moisture in the system, it turns to a bright yellow, as bright as a microfiber cloth, as bright as that. So it's very obvious that there's water in there and contaminated. It's got a drain valve on the bottom, so on a daily use you can actually drain it off, which will make these beads last a lot longer. They're saying 500 or 600 hours of continuous use. That's with air passing through it, not necessarily connected to the airline as such. But if you blank them off and no air and moisture goes to them, I can't see no reason why they wouldn't last a couple of 3 years. So it's you could actually save the life of the beads. There's nothing stopping you undoing the top, opening the sock and buying changeable beads, so you don't have to buy the new filter. I think they're about £72, I think the unit inside. So on this one, because I do use an air-fed mask, I hope you can all see this. I don't quite know where my camera is these days. I've changed some of the shelves in here, and the shelf I used to use is no longer there. So I hope you can see this, guys. You should be able to. I use a 3-stage 3M filtration pack on the back. Once again, they collect oil and water as normal. They purify the air from smells, the third section, so that you can couple up to your mask. I can either couple my mask to this point and have a separate route, or more often than not I connect the mask to the same airline as I'm using for painting. I've got a little fly lead and a Y piece that goes into my belt, so that my airline goes into my belt, little fly lead to the spray gun, and then it's already plumbed with a little pipe that goes into my air-fed mask. So this will sort out the pressure. Once again, 60-70 psi is normally set here. Do the final adjustment of your pressure for your spray gun on your cheater valve or regulator on your gun. So air plugged into there, filtered nice, comes round through the pipe on the side into the dryer. So now I've got rid of oil, water, smells, and the air is as dry as I can possibly get it. So that should sort out any contaminants that I might get. Things like silicon eyes, little tiny particles that come through the filter. If you've ever seen on the wall in your workshop how much mess and foreign bodies get caught up in your ordinary regulator filter unit, you'll understand why. If that was to come directly through, if you were to say paint a car from your compressor, plug an airline into your compressor without any regulation and filtration, all that mess that you get coming into these bowls will now be on your paint job. So don't paint direct from an airline straight from a compressor. And if it's only got the regulator itself, yes, you can regulate the air pressure down to your spray gun, which is great, but once again you need to filter this air. You'll be surprised how much rubbish comes up the airline. I suppose after a couple of months you've had your compressor running and you've gone to it and you've drained the tap at the bottom of the compressor, all that would be in your paint job. So this to me is more important to getting a good paint job than sort of what type of compressor, what size of compressor, how many horsepower, all those type of things you can overcome. You can actually put a small compressor, plug it with an airline to a slave bigger tank to give you the air volume, the air capacity that you need for a bigger job. So you can overcome that, but you really need to pay attention to cleaning the air. when I started using just that little one, the difference it made was really chalk and cheese to the quality of paint that I was doing here at home. Obviously, if I'm painting out and about and I'm in a booth or whatever, that's fine, that's already taken care of. The big screw compressors in a industrial building with a big freeze dryer, all that type of stuff is a must in a professional body shop. But I'm sort of talking now to you guys at home, like myself, that do things at home, that just want a nice clean paint job, maybe a project you've got yourself over the winter, summer, maybe small parts, maybe motorcycle parts, things like that. Don't forget about keeping the air nice, clean, dry. That's one of the must things. Right, I hope I haven't kept you guys too long. Sorry for the videos not doing so many of them that I promised, and I always promise lots but never actually get round to doing some. So I hope that's helpful. Look forward to your feedback. Try to do something useful again shortly. Cheers guys, thank you.